morning, dear students, and welcome to this session. Today, we are going to continue with our discussion of the poem The Gift of India by Sarojini Naidu. And today, we are going to discuss stanza 4. Till the last class, we have done till stanza 3, and today, we are going to continue with our discussion of the last stanza of the poem. And at the end of today's discussion, I'll also be sharing with you all a note on the poem, which you can make use of as the basis for framing your question answers. At the same time, there are layouts of many answers given in your workbook. You all must go through those answers and points given in the workbook as well. So here is stanza 4 of the poem. When the terror and the tumult of hate shall cease, and the life be refashioned on the anvils of peace, and your love shall offer memorial thanks to the comrades who fought in your dauntless ranks, and your honor the deeds of the deathless ones, remember the blood of thy martyred sons. Now, here, Mother India hopes that one day the terror and hatred, which is the cause of warfare, shall cease. And it is then that life will be refashioned, will be remodeled with a new found peace. When peace is restored, when life regains its normalcy, Mother India hopes from the British that they will offer thanks and respect to all those soldiers who fought valiantly, bravely, and courageously in the First World War for the cause of the British. They should also remember the brave soldiers of India who sacrificed their lives for the cause of the foreigners. Now, before going on to the detailed explanation of this particular stanza, let us first try to understand the key words in the stanza. Tumult. Okay. Tumult means noisy confusion or disorder. When the tumult is done, ceases. Cease, to end. Anvils means, or it refers to the heavy iron blocks on which heated metal is shaped by hitting it with hammer. And the poet also says in this particular stanza, and life be refashioned on anvils of peace. An anvil, as you know, is a heavy iron block on which heated metal is shaped by hammering it. So on an anvil, just like a metal is shaped, similarly, once the pain and suffering that is caused by warfare, it gets over. Once peace is established, then life will be refashioned and it would be filled with peace. The reference to the fact that it will be refashioned on anvils, it suggests that restoring life or regaining normalcy after the warfare is a very difficult task. It is not an easy task. So therefore, it is also suggestive of the devastation and the destruction which results because of a war. And then and your honor to the comrades who fought in your dauntless ranks. Comrades here means the fellow soldiers. Dauntless means brave ranks. So here she says that when the world will pay tribute to the martyrs, to the courageous and the brave soldiers, remember the blood of my martyred sons. They must also remember to pay homage to the martyred sons of India who sacrificed their lives and died fighting for the cause of the foreigners who died fighting in the unknown foreign lands. Now let us try to understand the stanza in detail. Now this particular stanza forms the last stanza of the poem, and here the speaker is hopeful because Mother India here speaks about the ensuing peace that would come after the war. And she also speaks about the martyrdom of the countless Indian soldiers. The terror, confusion, disorder, or the tumult of hate which has resulted in the war shall come to an end one day. It will cease. And then there will be peace. Now, when peace will be restored, life will be refashioned, it will be remodeled, it will go back to normal. But at the same time, there will be drastic new changes. Life will not be the same. Many changes will take place, which would be the resulting change of the war. What is curious to note here is the poet's use of the phrase on anvils of peace. This implies that the process of getting life back to normal will not be an easy one. It also comments on the after effects of war in general. So many people will die, there will be much loss to human life, property, economy will suffer a lot because of the warfare. So it will not be an easy task to come back to the normal life, and that is reflected through anvil of peace. Now after the war, when peace is restored, people will pay their respects to the dead ones who fought in the war. They will pay respect to their fellow soldiers who fought in many dauntless ranks and courageous ranks, who gave up their lives. They will honor the deeds of all those soldiers who will never be forgotten. When such a time comes, the speaker, that is Mother India, asks that the blood of her martyred sons be remembered as well. She demands that the Indian soldiers who fought courageously in the First World War, who laid down their lives for the cause of the colonizers, they too should be honored. She wishes that when the war gets over and life returns to normal, when the nations begin honoring the soldiers who fought by their side, the sacrifice of her sons must also be honored, and their rightful glory must be given to them. This is in fact the message she has for the Allied forces especially Britain. It seems as if she is telling the Britishers, asking the Britishers, offer your gratitude and love to your fallen comrades who fought bravely by your side. Honor their memory and the brave deeds of the fearless ones. Remember the blood of the martyred sons of India. It seems that this is the message that Mother India wants to give to the Britishers in the last stanza. Now, we must remember that when the poem was written in 1915, India was still under the British Empire, and it must be noted that over 1.5 million Indian soldiers served overseas. And out of this 1.5 million soldiers, 62,000 died and another 67,000 were wounded. In total, at least 75,237 Indian soldiers died during the war. The reason for the death of such a large number of Indian soldiers was because of the despotic British government, who deployed the Indian soldiers for dangerous duties near enemy ranks. The British soldiers were kept behind. The Indian soldiers were made to face the enemies. And that is the reason why so many Indian soldiers died during the First World War. The selfish British Empire gave no attention to the Indian beliefs of cremation. They simply dragged all the Indian dead bodies into mass graves and buried them underground without performing any Hindu rituals of samskara. The empire gave a different type of treatment to the dead bodies of the British soldiers. Each and every one of the white bodies were respectfully collected from the war fronts. White bodies means the dead bodies of the English soldiers. They were respectfully collected from the war fronts and taken home by chartered flights of the British Airways. Once their dead bodies were in England, they were given a ceremonial welcome and the burial ceremony was conducted according to the proper Christian practices. This is how the dead bodies of the British soldiers were respected, were paid a tribute. But what about the dead bodies of the Indian soldiers? No attention was given to them. They were simply dragged into mass graves and buried without performing any Hindu rituals. They were not given any respect in that way. In this fourth and the last stanza of the poem, Sarojini Naidu makes an appeal, or rather a request to the British Empire. She wants the empire to remain thankful for the sacrifice done by the dead Indian soldiers. Indians fought the war with equal or higher courage compared to their English counterparts. So Mother India wants the British Empire to remember the sacrifices done by the sons of India for the success of that empire. She wants the empire to honor the dead soldiers along with the honors going to be given for the British martyrs. But what happened in the end? The dead British soldiers were celebrated as war heroes. Their widows were summoned to the Buckingham Palace, and posthumous awards, gallantry awards, were presented to the widows in honor of their dead husbands. Their children were given reservation for higher studies in prestigious military academies, and even future employment was guaranteed to them. But what about the Indian soldiers? In the case of the Indian soldiers, no such consideration was given. They were not even given the status of martyrs because they were all poor and black Indians. All that their relatives received was a telegram from the War Office informing the death of their near ones in the war. So, therefore, the poem, The Gift of India, began as a celebration of India's contribution to the cause of others. But it ends up as a strong war poem, concentrating both on the evils of destruction war brings and the mourning, as well as the courage, honor, and recognition of the heroes who fight in it. As always, Sarojini Naidu's poem arouses a sense of pride and patriotism in the hearts of her countrymen, and this particular poem, The Gift of India, is not an exception. So, this poem arouses a sense of pride and patriotism in the hearts of the countrymen. Now, though this particular poem is a patriotic poem, yet it can also be read as an anti-war poem. Through this particular poem, Sarojini Naidu has depicted the horrors of war through the brutal killings of the Indian soldiers in the First World War. These Indian soldiers were used as pawns in the war by the British. They were in no way involved in the cause or the outcome of the war, but they were unscrupulously deployed for the benefit of the British. These soldiers fought in alien lands and died on the battlefield. They could never reunite with their country and their families. Their dead bodies lay lifeless like the shells scattered on sands. Their severed limbs, blood-stained bodies are proof enough of the horrors of war which these soldiers had to face. Thus, the immeasurable grief of Mother India in the poem reflects Sarojini Naidu's anti-war attitude. Throughout the poem, war is not glorified but condemned. Mother India, throughout the poem, laments the loss of her children. So, the Mother India crying over the loss of Indian soldiers can be seen as a reflection of every mother lamenting the loss of her martyred sons. The soldiers and their families are thus the victims of any war encompassing loss and bloodshed. She visualizes a day when the world will be free from hatred and agonies of war, and life will be modeled on the newfound peace. Now, this particular poem is though a patriotic poem, but it also can be read as an anti-war poem. So this much from the poem. Thank you. I hope things are clear. If it is not, you are free to ask your doubts. However, I will be also sharing with you a note on the poem. Now, this note should not be taken as an answer or alchemy for all questions. You need to prepare an appropriate answer. You can take help from the note. Thank you and stay blessed.